I've run more than 1,000 Google Ads lead campaigns over the past 10 years, and lead quality is an issue that comes up all the time. And at the end of the day, there's no point generating leads if they aren't converting. Fortunately, there are things you can do to significantly improve the quality of the leads that are generated from your Google Ad campaigns. And in this video, I'm going to share with you my favorite techniques for doing just that. So lead quality is obviously incredibly important. Like I said, there's no point generating leads if they're not actually going to convert. We want customers. We don't just want to donate money to Google in order to generate leads and feel like we're making progress. I think when it comes to lead quality, there's two main parts to it. So the first is, are your leads the right people? As in, can you actually serve them? And that can, be a number of different metrics or things that you use to determine whether or not you can actually serve them as a business, right? Are they in the right stage of life? Depending on what you offer, maybe it's something that's appropriate for people depending on where they are at in their life. Do they have the budget? That's an obvious one when it comes to lead quality. My leads aren't the right type of people. They don't have the budget to work with us. If your leads aren't the right type of people, you're not generating leads who, yes, we can serve them if they decide to convert from here. You're not going to convert them. They're not going to go on to become customers. That's one of the big parts. The other parts that's probably thought about less when it comes to lead quality is, are your leads warm enough? Everyone thinks, oh, I'm just reaching the wrong people. They're not the right stage of life. They're in the wrong location. They don't have the budget, etc., etc. Less people focus on, actually, the leads being generated are the right type of people. I could work with them. They're just choosing not to convert. And often that comes down to them being warm enough. Your prospects aren't convinced that your offer is better than your competitor's offer. Should I really work with you guys? Now, on sales calls, they're unlikely to say this out loud, but you can kind of get a feeling for that if you know you're speaking to the right people and they just aren't converting. So whenever it comes to tackling a lead quality issue, you've got low conversion rates from lead to customer, you need to work out which one of those two you need to work on. It's potentially both. A lot of times it is both. And as we go through this, the techniques that I'll give can apply. I'll say you can use this if your leads are in this scenario or in this scenario, and then you can go ahead and apply the ones that will make the most impact for your Google Ad campaign to the lead quality and getting them to convert. Technique number one is selective ad copy. Now, we normally write our ad copy to try and convince people to click, try and get as many people to click as possible, get the highest click-through rate. It's going to help with quality score, etc., etc. But if you are seeing lead quality issues, one of the things you can do instead is write your ad copy to convince the wrong people not to click. So how do you do that, right? You can say quite specifically who your offer is for, who your service is for, and by doing so, the people that don't meet that criteria are far less likely to click, far less likely to go through and convert and become a lead. So to give you an example, let's say you can only serve people that are moving house. Your service is something related to that, that's what you do. You can say that in your ad copy. You can make it very, very clear that that's who it's for. And just technically how you might do this within your campaign, as part of your responsive search ads, you can pin headlines. So you could write a headline saying, emphasizing the fact that you are only able to work with people that move house. You might not say it in those words. You might say like moving house or about to move house, those sorts of things, right? And then you can pin that headline so it always appears as one of your headlines when it's actually shown to people. And that can help convince the people who aren't moving house to not click because they're like, oh, okay, well, that doesn't apply to me. I won't click. And you could do the same thing with location. If you're getting leads from one location, budget, we've already discussed, age, perhaps you can only work with people of a certain age. Profession, maybe only work with people within certain industries. And again, you can be very clear about who it is you do work with, who it is you don't work with, right up front at the ad level before you've paid for the click. So I'll get onto some other techniques in a second. Before I do, just want to quickly let you know about our done-for-you Google Ad services. So my team can create, manage, and optimize your Google Ad campaigns for you. We can take that workload off your hands or take it off the hands of another agency you might be working with that's not doing great results. And because we do this all day, every day, we spent tens of millions on the platform over a decade, run thousands of campaigns, we'll almost certainly be able to help you get much better results. So if that sounds interesting, there is a link in the video description below. You can click on that, come through to a page on our website, book in a free, no obligation call with one of my team members, and hopefully we get a chance to work together. Technique number two is to implement offline conversion tracking. Now, I've seen a number of businesses do this and it can be an absolute game changer. I'm going to create a separate video showing you technically how you go about doing this, so make sure you go ahead and subscribe for that. But what I'm talking about here is integrating your CRM data with your ad campaigns. And what that allows you to then do is see where your customers are coming from. So instead of just optimizing based on cost per lead within your ad account and looking at a number of keywords and going, okay, yeah, they've got a similar cost per lead, let's keep advertising to both of them, you can instead optimize for the ones that convert, or even get a little bit smarter and optimize for the ones that convert and produce the highest value customers and clients. Because you can often see a scenario where two keywords, for example, will produce a similar cost per lead, but one will convert much better, so it produces a much better cost per customer acquired, which is actually the much more important metric. Now, in order to see that, you're going to need to have offline conversion tracking. But when you implement this and you take a look at it and you can extrapolate this across all the things in your Google ad account, not just keywords, you could do it with ads, offers, headlines, all sorts of various elements, right? Creative assets, if you're not just running ads on search, that can be really, really powerful and an absolute game changer. So it's a little bit of extra effort, but well worth doing. Number 3 is to add friction to your lead generation process. So you can, for example, ask more questions in your contact forms, in your lead forms. You can even have some of those questions be conditional. So if people don't meet certain criteria, let's say there's a question about budget, and if they enter in a budget that's too low, you can have them redirected elsewhere and say, sorry, we can only work with people who have X budget or more. You don't currently meet that criteria, in which case here's some free resource that we'd recommend you use instead, or whatever it happens to be. Try and be nice, obviously, with the rejection. You could also change up your lead generation process. Instead of having them fill out a contact form and then reaching out, you can have people book a slot directly into your calendar. That's how we operate as a business. If someone wants to know about our done-for-you Google Ads services, for example, they come through and they have to go through a form, enter in their information. Some of those questions are conditional for us, things like revenue, budget, stuff like that. Businesses have to be of a certain size to be able to work with us. And then they get redirected elsewhere if they don't meet the criteria. If they do meet the criteria, they can again go ahead and book in a call directly into our calendar. We've just seen much better show-up rates, and it's just more efficient on our end when we're able to do things like that. Now, adding more friction to the process, asking more questions, making it more difficult does not warm up your leads. But what it does do is it filters out some of the lower quality leads, because the lower quality leads, people who aren't that interested, they're just not going to go through this process. Too much like hard work, too much like effort, and they're going to drop out. And that can really save your time or your sales team's time if they're finding they're getting a lot of no-shows or just low quality calls or wasted sales meetings. If you go, you know what, let's just add in some friction. Let's remove the people that are less interested, and that's going to save everyone's time. We might not end up with more conversions overall, but we'll get a better conversion rate from lead to customer, and we'll be much more efficient in our lead generation and sales process. Now, just before I move on to some other techniques on how you can improve your Google Ads lead quality, I first want to let you know about Hyros. Hyros is fantastic tracking and attribution software and can really help you improve your Google Ad results. It's a software that all the big players in the industry use, including myself. I use it to track results for my own ads across multiple platforms, including Google Ads, and all my organic results as well, which is super helpful. So if someone, for example, comes through and books a call for our done-for-you services, I can see exactly where that person came from. This is particularly important if you're running ads across multiple channels or generating customers organically as well. Without accurate data, you are flying blind, and knowledge is power. So if you want to improve the performance of your Google Ad campaigns and be able to see exactly where your leads and sales are coming from, go ahead and sign up to Hyros. There is a link in the video description. Technique number 4 is to assign conversion values to your leads. Now, not all leads that are generated for your business are equally valuable to your business. Now, this could be because you offer different services, and different services are associated with, more money, more revenue, or perhaps easier to implement. Or it could be because certain leads have more budget. If they're in this part of town, they're likely to be more valuable than this part of town. If they meet this criteria, they're more likely to be more valuable than this criteria. So you can set up your conversions to track the leads that are generated and then assign values to each one. Okay, this lead is worth $100 to our business, but this lead is worth $300 to our business based on our conversion rates and what the eventual customer is likely to be worth. Then you can change how you optimize your lead campaign to use the bidding strategy where you maximize for conversion value. So I'll quickly show you how to do that. So I'm in an example Google Ad account here. I'm just in the new campaign creation process. You can see when you create a leads campaign, the default bidding strategy is conversions. You can then change that to conversion value. Now, what that means is that Google will not just try and get you as many conversions as possible, but they will understand that some leads are worth more than others and therefore weight the more valuable ones more heavily and go after those more aggressively. So let's say they can get you a lead that's worth $100 for $30 each, something like that, but they can get you a $300 lead for $60. We're like, yeah, the math is better. Cost to me $60, but something that's worth $300 as opposed to cost to me $30 for something that's worth $100 is often a trade that a lot of business owners will make. So that's something that you can go ahead and do. It's not that difficult to do. It depends on your business, obviously. If you've got tons of different types of leads that you generate, it's going to be more time consuming. But It is worth doing. Having Google prioritize those higher value leads does make a difference. We see this with e-commerce businesses as well when you optimize for sort of return on ad spend as opposed to just sales, and the same can be done with leads. It just requires a bit of extra setup. Number 5 is to add more negative keywords. Now, negative keywords are typically used by advertisers to stop your ads being shown to searches that just aren't relevant. You think, oh, I don't want my ad to appear for that. That person's never going to go on and become a lead. But you can actually be much stricter than that and use negative keywords to stop your ads being shown to searches for people that are searching for relevant things, can go on to become a lead, have gone on to become a lead, but that lead isn't as good a quality. So it's almost taking what I talked about previously, where you're setting up your keywords to be really specific and taking that one step further. And this works really well with businesses that operate in niches where there's a lot of search volume. You can generate a lot of leads relatively quickly, but they're just low quality. So you can afford to get much, much stricter. Obviously, if you don't have as much search volume, then this gets a little bit tricky, right? So to do this, you need to have online and offline conversion tracking set up properly. So you are able to assess, okay, you know what, if someone searches for this and becomes a lead, yeah, they're less likely to go on and convert, or if they do convert, they're not as valuable to me as other ones. This is a continuation of the point we made earlier. And if you do implement this, Google's not going to like it. They're going to say, whoa, you're missing out a lot of potential search volume, missing out a lot of potential clicks, a lot of potential leads, a lot of potential customers. And whilst that might be true, particularly in industries where there is a lot of search volume and you can afford to be more aggressive on this, my job as a Google advertiser is not to get as many clicks as possible, not even to get as many leads as possible if they're low quality. It's to maximize the return on the budget, on the money that's being spent on Google Ads. I want as much back in terms of customers and revenue for what I'm putting out, and really making things strict can be a good way to do that. Technique number 6 is to build and nurture warm audiences. Now, Google advertisers in particular are very direct response focused, as in, I put an ad in front of you, I want you to come through and convert today. Maybe you had no idea who I was before, I want you to directly respond and go ahead and make a purchase, become a lead, something like that. Much more so than advertisers on other platforms, by the way. Like meta advertisers normally are going to be a little bit more long-term focused, a little bit more brand focused, probably because of the nature of things like Instagram and the audiences that you can build and stuff like that, right? And I think that this really direct response approach can be quite short-sighted and just make everything much harder over the long run. Yes, in the short run, doing things to build warm audiences and nurture warm audiences might not make a big difference, but over the medium and absolutely over the long term, it can make all the difference in the world and make everything a lot easier. So if you do commit to building warm audiences, nurturing them by providing value over time, people will be much more likely to convert. Like much, much more likely to convert. And when we talked at the beginning about one of the things that people don't often consider when it comes to lead quality is, are these leads warm enough? Are they that interested in what I have to offer? And yes, there are things you can do in the short term. You might have a webinar as part of your sales funnel, for example, to help warm people up. But really, proper warming up of audiences to the point where they're hot and highly likely to convert is done over time, and you can shortcut the process to some extent, but it's not an immediate thing. It's not a quick fix. Like if I look at myself as an example, right? I have created educational content around Meta ads and more recently on Google ads for almost a decade. And I've provided a huge amount of value to literally millions of people have watched my videos. And if they were struggling to work out how to set up a campaign, provide tips, etc., like that's really helped them. Now, what that means is that when people come through and book a call with our sales team, interested in our services, they are way more likely to convert because they have seen the evidence that I know what I'm talking about. They're like, okay, well, Ben's clearly switched on. He's got this going on. He's shown me this and I implemented this from a video and it worked really well. What else can they do for me? And most businesses that generate leads can have a version of that. It might be on a Google related platform like YouTube. It might be elsewhere, but seriously give that some thought because that is not a quick fix. It's not a direct thing. It's not going to make a big difference next week. Probably won't make much of a difference next month. Might not make a huge difference in 6 months' time, but 2 or 3 years' time, it can make all the difference in the world. And I'm certainly evidence of that. Now, before you go, I strongly recommend you check out this video. In it, I give you my favorite Google Ads strategy. And Google Ads has changed so much over the past few years that adjusting strategy and keeping up to date is absolutely essential. This video will show you how to do exactly that.